Hot Wheels came on the scene in 1968, and at the time they were considered the world's fastest metal toy cars. 2 years later, a self-powered version of Hot Wheels came out, touted as the world's fastest electric cars. They were charged from D-cell batteries with help from accessories called the juice machine and the goose pump. And those are basically a momentary switch that sends power to the car when you hold down the button. There was also a plug-in charger called the Power Pit, which was cool not only because it looked like a gas station, but it did away with a momentary switch. It had a dial on top with a timer. When the timer ended, your car was done charging. It took about 90 seconds to charge the car, supposedly. I mean, kids aren't patient. I'm sure a lot of them didn't wait that long. And then there are the really motivated ones that probably charged them well into several minutes. There was quite a push in the beginning with several different cars available, a lot of different track sets, starting with the orange track type with accessories like automatic starting gates and speed brakes. And soon there was the awesome Fat Track, which allowed the cars to freely move among each other like real cars, and it had banked turns like a real racetrack. The first batch of Sizzlers included a Ford GT, Firebird, Camaro, a Mustang, Cuda, Ferrari 512, a really fat March F1, and Dan Gurney's Indy Eagle, sort of. And there were the fantasy cars: Rev in Heaven, Spoil Sport, Backfire, Hothead, Sideburn, Anteater, Livewire, Straight Scoop, Uproar, Double Boiler, Hot Wings, Flat Out, Co-Motion. Also the Angelino M70, which was basically a Ford J car with a wing. I told you there were a lot of cars. If you were lucky enough to live in Italy, there was also a Ferrari P4 and a Porsche Carrera 10. Those are super hard to find in the States, and they're among the most expensive on the collector's market. Haven't scored a Ferrari yet, but I do have the Porsche. There are also some Mexico-only color variations that are hard to find in the States, too rich for my blood. For a while, some of the cars were offered with an accessory called a mouse mustache, which would allow it to bounce off obstacles and keep going when you put it on the floor. And there were spin-offs. The Earth Shakers were tractors meant to be played with in a sandbox. Chop Cycles were motorcycle trikes, and Hotline Trains. Nah. And of course, Matchbox had to get in on the action with their own version, which they called the Scorpions, cars with a sting in their tail. The Phantom and the Tornado were released in 1971 along with some track sets, and they were basically the same as Sizzlers, but with different contact points for charging and a different on-off switch. The charging contacts for those cars were on the bottom, which gave them the advantage of on-track charging like a slot car. You didn't have to pick it up. And they had a fancy magnetic reed switch to turn them on and off. In the description, I'll link a really good video about that if you're the type that wants to geek out on them. In Europe, Corgi released their version, the Electro Rockets, featuring an Ital-designed Manta and an Alfa Romeo. And those worked just like Sizzlers, although initially they had a different battery and motor. And both Matchbox and Corgi failed to meet the popularity of the Sizzlers, so they didn't last long. In 1973, Mattel released a line of bigger Sizzlers called Fat Daddies. Highway Hauler, Fireworks, Needle Nose, Red Baron, Law Mill, Ram Rocket, and an accessory trailer that was designed to steer the car either in a circle or a figure 8 pattern when you put them on the floor. In 1975, the regular-sized Sizzlers came back, only this time all in chrome, and they called them Sizzlers 2, I guess due to the popularity of the Mustang 2. 7 cars total: the Camaro, Mustang, Livewire, Angelino M70, Sideburn, and Anteater from before, and the all-new Phantom, which was meant to cash in on the van craze of the late 70s. So disco. Those were on the market till 1978 when a new batch came out, the Night Ridin' Sizzlers, a new batch of cars all with headlights. There was a yellow Lotus called the Dark Shadow for some reason, a white Porsche called Moon Ghost, a Lamborghini called Lamborghini, 2 fantasy cars, the Short Fuse and the Long Count, which are really super hard to find, and a version of the Corvette 4-rotor concept car. And by 1980, Sizzlers were off the market. There were a few times where Mattel sort of brought them back, but not quite in the same form, kind of like when Ford thought they were going to replace the Mustang with the Probe. Nice try, but no. 1996 brought us XV Racers, which were a near miss on the Sizzlers idea with a recycled name from an old line of friction toys. And at about the same time, there was this guy named Tom Lowe, a Gen Xer like me who liked to play with toy cars as a kid, who had already brought back Johnny Lightning cars and decided he'd try to bring back Sizzlers on his own. Supposedly, Mattel had let their trademark on Sizzlers lapse, and it was picked up by the Estes Rocket Toy Company's Century Corp, who had registered it for use on toy cars. Tom Lowe acquired the trademark from them. He released a whole line of cars branded as Sizzlers from his Playing Mantis brand in 1996. They were a lot like the original Sizzlers, but they charged a little differently. Mattel was not amused. They sued. Lowe's Sizzlers went off the market in 1997, and for about a decade there was a total Sizzlers drought until the Target deal. And us Gen X kids were really happy when the original Sizzlers came back on the market exclusively at Target stores. I already loved Target. The Fat Track and all the chargers were back, even the little goose pump pack with the mouse mustache, only this time the power pit was battery operated instead of plugging into the wall safely. And in 2007, Mattel added 4 new Sizzlers: the Heavy Chevy, the Roger Dodger, 57 Chevy truck, and the Olds 442. And then they were gone, and Mattel went back to the nice try but no philosophy. They already had their Turbo Glow cars, which came out at the same time as the Target Sizzlers. They were a rehash of the XV Racers, only less realistic and with even uglier wheels. When Pixar's Cars 2 came out in 2011, Hot Wheels brought back the original Sizzlers design, but only in Pixar car body styles. And they were branded as charge-ups. What kills me about this lineup? No Tow Mater. Wasn't that whole movie about Tow Mater? Sometime in 2015, they came up with something called Speed Chargers, which was another rehash of XV Racers, and this time they beat their all-time ugly record set by the Turbo Glow cars. Can you say clearance rack? And then in 2018, Mattel thought, hey, what if we brought back those Speed Chargers, only uglier this time, and we throw in a ridiculous augmented reality app and we charge something obscene for them, like $120. And while we're at it, let's not even name the cars. We'll just call them Orange Car and Blue Car. And so Augmoto was born, and less than a year later, Augmoto was dead. The majority of the customers couldn't get the app to connect to the cars, and you can't use the cars without the app. If you Google Augmoto, you'll find all kinds of stories of ruined Christmases. And now fans of the Fat Track are picking these up cheap on clearance because the set comes with a decent pair of bank turns and a few straight sections. There's a whole genre on YouTube of people racing Hot Wheels on Fat Track. For an example, I'll link you to the Kelly Motor Speedway. 2018 was the 50th anniversary of Hot Wheels. 2020 will be the 50th anniversary of Sizzlers, and I'm hoping they do a nod to the original cars when that happens. Come on, Mattel, throw me a bone. I already love going to Target. I'm Christopher, you're great. Thanks for watching. Remember to enjoy the journey.